The reason Broads is doing what he's doing, which is, I guess, putting a tattoo of Jalen Hurts on the line. Like, he'll get a tattoo of Jalen Hurts.
Love it.
It's because of the decision day on today, and that is the decision the Eagles have to make, Hugh Douglas, on whether or not they should draft a quarterback in the 2026 NFL Draft. All right, so this one is an interesting one because they could do this and it not be a big deal. They could do this and it be a big deal, right? All the other decisions we talked about this week, whether it be give Jalen Hurts a new contract, that's a big deal, right? That signifies something strong. Moving on from A.J. Brown, again, it signifies something very strong for the franchise. And the Sirianni hot seat is really just how you feel about him. Hugh, if the Eagles draft a quarterback, depending on where they draft that quarterback, it says totally different things, right? If they took a quarterback in the 7th round, no one cares. 6th round, nobody cares. 5th round, pretty much no one cares. Then we start getting into semantics of, okay, that means something. 4th round, 3rd round, okay. 2nd round, wow, that's just like what they did with Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. And obviously 1st round would be a seismic thing. Hugh, with that all being said, like obviously where they draft a quarterback matters. Do you think the Eagles should draft a quarterback in this draft?
No.
Okay.
And the reason why I say there's a bunch of reasons why I say that. Number one, I feel like Jalen's poised for a bounce back year. I feel that. And this is not the year to draft a quarterback. Because I was looking at the list, and it's like they say it's probably 2 that are NFL ready, and that's the one from Miami quarterback and Indiana's quarterback. Can't think of the names right
Mendoza
now. And
Carson Beck.
Carson Beck. Yeah, Carson Beck. Carson Beck. Everybody else has a tremendous upside. Now, I know that when you say tremendous upside, you know, that's probably what we're looking at. But I don't think that this year, given that we don't know what's going to happen with Lane, there's a lot of holes that we have to fill offensively. I don't think this is the year to do it.
So I think a lot of people might agree with you on that, and it does not seem like a super strong quarterback class. I'll just say this about that. Next year seems better, right, in terms of quarterback class. There is kind of, though, you could zig when everyone else zags, right? Like if everybody's waiting for next year's draft class, that could push down, like, let's say the 3rd best quarterback in this class, whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he falls to the middle of the 2nd or 3rd round because 9 teams are like, well, we'll just wait for next year. So it could actually provide an opportunity. That all being said, I would take one. I think the Eagles should draft a quarterback. I'm not saying in the 1st round. I don't think there's another 1st-round quarterback that looks like a legit 1st-round quarterback besides Mendoza, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I don't think they should take one in the 1st round. That doesn't seem like it fits. I would take a quarterback, though, on day 2 of the NFL draft. And I have a couple reasons. One, I am concerned that Jalen Hurts is in decline. That's obvious. And 2, it's a hedge. And it actually, I think, could give the Eagles 2 shots to find a quarterback. And what I mean by that is, go back to 2020. They hedged on Carson, and they took Jalen. But no one knew Jalen was the guy, even the whole 2020 season into 21. Only the Eagles had some sort of like, all right, we think he could be. And then they rolled with him into 21 instead of drafting a quarterback. But like taking a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round does not prohibit them from taking another quarterback higher in 27 if they need to.
No, it doesn't. But I look at it more so out of necessity. And this is the year. I get what you're saying because you're trying to figure out whether or not Jalen is the guy for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
But I feel like there are other pressing needs on this team so that need isn't as you don't need that right now.
Well, so you're right. I mean, that's true. And that reminds me of 2020 because people were pissed because they had a lot of needs, right? I mean, they needed they needed a receiver, they needed line out, but they needed a ton of things coming off of 19 into 20, and that was part of the reason why people thought it was a mistake to take Jalen Hurts. But if you hit on a quarterback, it supersedes any current need. It's just more important than like a left guard or whatever because it's a long-term investment.
No, I agree, but when you I've seen the pictures of Lane working out, you know, and you know Landon, you know the conversation about him, even though I don't think he's going to retire, it's still up in the air.
Yep,
that's still a story. So I feel like you're not as pressed to get one right now. I think those draft picks that you're potentially going to have with the 23rd pick and your 2nd pick, they probably need to be on probably finding some offensive line help.
I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. And then if they draft a quarterback, a lot of people are going to be upset about it. 215-592-9494. I would take one. I think they could hedge a quarterback, give themselves an out here in case Jalen doesn't play well. And then depending on how next season goes, they could use that guy and play him at the end of the year if they need to. And the other part of this, and I think Tanner McKee's probably, people are thinking about that as we talk about this, he only has 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
So
you need to get a quarterback if you're not going to re-sign him at some
they
point.
need another quarterback in the pipeline here.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you're confident or semi-confident or not that confident in Jalen Hurts, they need another young quarterback here. I would take one on day 2 of the draft. All right, could we hear from Jeremy Fowler yesterday, ESPN? And I think Fowler wrote this a few months ago, and now he's saying it on First Take yesterday.
One question around the league is, do they draft a quarterback maybe in day 2 to apply a little bit of pressure on Jalen Hurts, who I believe is at a crossroad right now after the way last season went. And Jalen Hurts was drafted in the 2nd round, eventually replaced Carson Wentz, who got a massive deal just that offseason before. Does that same thing now happen to Jalen Hurts eventually?
I mean, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one that when you talk about this upcoming draft that we're having this year, the way the Eagles move is going to tell you everything how they feel about this offense and whether or not Jalen is the guy that's going to, be the quarterback for the next 5 to 6 years. It's going to tell you everything.
Well, yeah, and how he plays in it, what they do, if they bring in someone else. We also had Mike Silver. This was recently talking about the Eagles and their quarterback situation.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's closer to the first one. And the most glaring example of this in that building, as you know, was when Carson Wentz was the presumptive franchise quarterback and paid accordingly, had been injured during that Super Bowl run. And Nick Foles, of course, elevated and did his thing, but everybody was like, well, Carson Wentz is the guy. And they drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round, surprisingly. And then it was, hey, we're not phasing out Carson. We could spot him in, gives us a different dimension. But, it degenerated with Carson and with Doug. And then lo and behold, Jalen Hurts was the franchise guy, took them to a Super Bowl, ended up winning another. So, because he's actually been to 2 Super Bowls, won one as the MVP and played amazingly in the other, this would be more shocking if it were something that aggressive. But I think you know better than I do that clearly something was really off this past season, and it seems to be bleeding over into the offensive coordinator search.
All right, so Michael Silver had a lot there.
He dropped a lot.
He did. One thing I disagree with him on, I don't think this is going to be more shocking than the Hurts draft pick. The Hurts draft pick was jaw on the ground.
It will be, Joe.
No, we're talking about it now.
It will be, because if they do that, nobody's going to understand it. Nobody's going to understand why.
I think people will.
No, a lot of people won't. I don't believe that to be the case.
All right, when you say don't understand it, they may not agree with it, but I think we all understand what's going on.
They're not going to agree with it because they're not going to understand.
Yeah,
that's the thing. If you draft for a lot of fans, if you draft a quarterback on the 2nd day,
day 2 feels like the sweet spot.
If you're surprised by that, you're living under a rock.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people they're not going to understand that.
Well, a lot of idiots wouldn't.
I mean, yeah, that's a way to endear ourselves to the people who call them names, but they're not going to get that because it's not going to make sense.
Well, I'm sorry. Can we get out of our feelings here?
I mean, I hear
it's
you.
a good investment. It's a quarterback.
It is, but a lot of people will probably look at that as why are you wasting a draft pick so high and we got our franchise.
Glad you mentioned that. It's never a wasted draft pick to invest it on. If you like the guy at quarterback, that's not a wasted draft pick. I mean, there's a lot of good that can come from that. Honestly, I think if there's a guy there that they like on day 2 or 3, they'd be stupid not to do it.
I agree.
They just turned over this entire offensive staff. What if Jalen Hurts can't run it? And all this talk about, extending him, doubling down on him, what's the alternative? There it is. There's the alternative. And guess what? He's cheap as hell.
And I think they can actually light a fire under him if they draft a quarterback.
Right.
No, I get it. And I'm with you with everything that you're saying, I'm with that. But I feel like when you do that, as much talk that has gone on about Jalen this offseason, a lot of people are not going to see it that way.
You know what? Jalen's not an idiot. Like, I think he would have to understand, just given his history, how he got this job. I mean, I'd like to remind everybody why Jalen Hurts is our quarterback in the first place.
Literally the same thing.
How we won our
totally
first Super Bowl.
And,
I mean, it's so obvious.
And it's one of those things. Competition is healthy. in the NFL,
right.
especially
It's
when
good.
you talk about – because a lot of things that have been thrown around about this football team this year, and one of the biggest words is complacent. So you want to, in my opinion, if you got a team that's on the cusp of being a perennial Super Bowl contender, you want to keep competition high at every position.
Yeah.
So that way you can get optimal play out of every position you possibly can.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea for the short term, the long term, and I think it could light a fire under Jalen Hurts.